Hello.
Hello, Miriam. How are you? How's your day?
Excited to be here, actually. And I'm really happy to see quite a few folks from different areas of the world because normally I'm based in Canada. So it's really nice to see you.
Great. The same here. So, let me say a couple of words about you. Miriam is founder of an SEO agency, Pragm.com, marketing trainer. She's been training agencies and house specialists and museum staff. Even she's also an SEO consultant and conference speaker. She has worked with clients in various industries: financial, pharmaceutical, food, public services, fashion, cosmetics, and so on. What I also wanted to say, since you go to Miriam's Twitter page, you can hang out there for a long time. It's really interesting. There are a lot of tweets about SEO, life, and her dog. On my own behalf, I would also like to say that Miriam is a very kind, even benign person. At the beginning of our communication, she asked me what makes me happy. I was amazed at that. And she describes herself through the following statement on her site. Being nice usually doesn't cost me a darn thing, so I embrace that. So, guys, please give Miriam a warm welcome. And with that, I'll pass the mic over to you, Miriam. Here you are.
I'm kind of teary eyed. I didn't know you went on my About page to find this. So thank you. Okay, well, hello, folks. I see that there's a comment saying that I worked in many industries, and it's true. It's true. I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm a trainer. That's I've seen some things, some pleasant things, some not so pleasant. And what I noticed with many of my clients, the long tail is what pays off. So I'm pretty sure you're here because you're interested in knowing how to use this and how to go beyond the whole, oh, it's 3 words or more. Yeah, it's a lot more than that. So let's discuss the short end of the long tail. We are going to be going over a few things. First and foremost, everybody always talks about it. Focus on intent. So we'll discuss this. The process. How do you come up with long tail keywords that actually work for you? Because as you can imagine, or as you can probably attest because you've tested it, it doesn't always pay off. So how do you pick the right terms? And how do you harness the long tail? So what types of contents work best for it? And how do you get around to it? How do you brief copywriters to do this? Last but not least, some tips and tricks. Because at the end of the day, you have to apply whatever we're talking about. And I'm not going to be there with you to do that. So I'm trying to share the next best thing, some tips. Hello, my name is Myriam Gessier. And as you can probably tell by the accent, I am very French. However, I'm also half Hungarian, so to the Hungarian person in the chat, jó estét! Like I said, I'm an SEO trainer, first and foremost. I've been doing this so long that I'm ready to help out the next generation. So SEO keeps evolving, so do we as specialists. And the focus today is long tail keywords, as I said. What do they do for us? Well, they enable us to be as nerdy or as specific as we want. This means that we get to leverage the niche we're in for better visibility. So that's a key benefit. It's not an easy one. You can't just show up one day and say, okay, well, I'm going to target these terms and be done with it. But there are some long-term benefits if you do get around to doing the work. Why? Well, most people, once they know what they want, they go for really specific queries that have a higher intent. That means that they are more than ready to convert in many cases, or that they are maybe a little higher up in the decision process, but they're getting close. They're not at the beginning of the journey. If somebody is looking for a toaster in Google, They may want to see a picture, the Wikipedia page. We're not sure they want to buy something. Someone looking for a Darth Vader toaster, that sounds like a Christmas gift for a dad. We know that it's getting closer to a conversion. So why do you use the long tail? Well, to qualify leads, of course. This helps you figure out, are the people that I'm reaching actually interested in what we're selling, in what we're offering? Because humans will search for businesses online and specific products using long tail keywords. So if you are able to use the same terms that they are using, if you satisfy what they're looking for, you can reach a more targeted audience more easily than if you were just competing with everyone else in your industry for the key terms that we all use. So, example, SEO agency. Great, that's most of us. Or SEO expert, most of us. Well, we'll see how you can refine this and actually find your niche. I'm going to share something that I do. I'm a Shopify SEO specialist, and I do train people to use Shopify in an SEO-friendly manner. That's a long tail approach. Not everyone offers that service. And when somebody goes, oh, but I do have a Shopify store, you're perfect for me. This is how you can really qualify your leads. So I see that there's a few questions. We'll answer them at the end, but some of them I can catch on really fast. Do I use Quora to generate long tail keywords? Well, many people do. I don't always. It's not that I'm lazy, it's that we all have our little recipes, our little habits. I like to hang out on Reddit. Reddit really helps me for long tail queries. So, how do we think about human beings thinking about keywords that are then interpreted by a bot? Well, the same keywords could be used by people who are searching for different things. It's a very common problem in B2B, for example. The CEO who's signing the check could be searching for something, and he or she may use the same keywords as their tech lead, but both humans are expecting different results. So you need to really buckle down and think about, why is the CEO searching? Why is the tech lead searching? What do they expect to find in an ideal scenario? So all things equal, we disregard Google. We're just wondering, what are you looking for? What format works best for them at this stage? And this one is a bit tricky because sometimes the company will say, you have to optimize this service page. And at that stage, maybe people are looking for an article that will compare some things, an FAQ, a checklist. You need to figure out how to integrate the format in your research. And what language level do they operate on? That's not always a cultural thing. It's very often a question of expert knowledge versus beginner. So if you think about your own journey in marketing or SEO, think about, what things are people looking for when they get started? What are things that you haven't thought about in a while because that's not your reality? And at the opposite end, for example, I'm working with a very specific niche agency that offers AI services. Well, I can't afford to go for those very beginner keywords because that's not what they do, and that's not what really establishes their expertise. So you really, really need to focus on these key questions. If you want to know more, I have a friend on Twitter named Lyndon who's really good at making threads that explain all of this in very, very interesting details. So there's a link in my deck where you can follow him and learn a bit more. You should also consider the how-to. Because it's great to plan to go after the long tail, but concretely, how do you do it? Well, you should be researching and considering content for each stage and for motivation. So, what does that mean? Concretely, it means that if I'm looking for pizza, I don't care about how pizza was invented. I don't care about how pizza came to America. I don't want the Wikipedia page. I want lunch. That is a very clear motivation. So, if we think back on some of the models that Google offers to consider that motivation, that intent, well, you would have maybe local intent behind that keyword. I want pizza near me. But you could also have commercial intent hidden behind that keyword. Where can I buy pizza? Or information. Why is pizza so delicious? Tell me. Well, I can already tell you that it's a mix of multiple ingredients, but the cheese is key. I love cheese. That's why. Don't quote me on that. But we need to focus on this because if you are so interested in what we would call head terms, you will understand that these head terms, they have a higher volume in SERP for one simple reason. All of these motivations, they're all hidden behind the word pizza. There's nothing to give a bigger hint, a bigger clue as to what I truly want. So here are some examples of long tail keywords and why they work. So long tail searches have a click-through rate of 3 to 5% higher than generic pizza searches. So let's say gluten-free pizza. Great example. But let's dive into real human beings that I know that are close to SEO. So the first person is actually a UX researcher who is very aware of SEO. And I asked them, okay, so what was the last long tail research you did? Like, what did you look for in Google? And my friend was like, why are my plant leaves turning yellow? And I'm like, oh, let me Google what a monstera is. Okay, I know which plant you're killing. This is amazing. So the answer to her query is actually a huge guide. And it helps her either determine that her plant is dead and she needs a new one, or how to save her plant, maybe with an accessory. And before I jump into the next one, I was asked what my favorite pizza is. First of all, not Pizza Hut. They just left, I think, or it's Domino's who just left Italy after years of trying. I just like the basic margarita. Bring it on. Extra cheese. Okay, so the next example I have is from another SEO in Hamburg, Anita, and she has to work with coffee quite often. So one very long tail query would be how to make the best coffee ever. I would argue it's still a bit vague when you are really into coffee, but that's a good question. You're already qualifying the fact that you want the best coffee ever. And I have another friend of mine, George. He's the editor at Wix, and he has 3 huskies. And these dogs can howl, they sing, they complain. So one question that he would have is, why are huskies such drama queens? Because they are. So the internet has the answer to all of these questions. But there are many, many long tail questions that do not have necessarily the best answer out there. That's why we're here. So the key to finding long tail keywords that work for you is intent modifiers. Okay, so you need to find opportunities tied to your main keyword. Tied to your main keyword. I'm not saying find a synonym. You're not smarter than Google in that sense. Google understands synonyms. I mean, back in the day, I used to type how to put on trousers, and it would say, did you mean pants? Google knows. You know. We can all do better. So you need to find things that are distinct in intent. That means that the long tail is not a longer way of asking to find something generic. It is asking to find something more and more specific based on that main term. So I actually found all of these words, all of these opportunities in Serpstat, because no joke, I'm a user. I have been for many, many years, and I'm happy about it. Go in there, few minutes, I type in Black Forest cake. So why Black Forest cake? It's my favorite birthday cake. That's it. That's it. I don't have a client selling birthday cakes or Black Forest cakes. I'm just really into them. I'm very food motivated. So if you type in Black Forest cake and you set up a little filter going, okay, I'm a food blogger. Let me filter this ocean of keywords that Serpstat is giving me by using the word recipe. So you ask the tool, show me everything that contains recipe. I have easy Black Forest cake recipe. I want it to be easy, not hard. Remember, the intent is modified. It's easy. Then Black Forest cookies using cake mix. Ooh, that is suspiciously specific. That's a good long tail spin on Black Forest cake. So that means I actually have a shot with my food blog that I don't have, it's hypothetical, of positioning myself. Whereas for Black Forest cake, ooh, that would be very, very difficult. Black Forest cake in a jar. That's also very specific. Diabetic Black Forest cake recipe. Same thing, different crowd. Black Forest mocha recipe. Now that's a drink. And Black Forest cake cookies. That's it. No cake mix, nothing special, but they're still here. You understand how none of these words are the same exact thing as Black Forest cake. So do you need to use a paid SEO tool to achieve this? You can do your research starting with free tools. Like Google Autocomplete is a great way to actually figure out stuff. Whenever I feel kind of sad, I will type in things like, why do goats? And I let autocomplete tell me all the intent modifiers people have about goats. And people have very strange questions, let me tell you. And if you are focused on using Google to actually dig in and start figuring things out, the people also ask feature is also great. If you can unlock this one, I mean, by unlock, I say like trigger it when you search for something, then you know that you're in for a good time. You will keep finding different questions. So let's go into B2B. Why? I love it when people come into these webinars to explain theoretical things, and then they will show you examples that work super well for them. And then you leave the webinar and you're like, okay, what do I do? Well, let me tell you what you do if you're B2B. So here is a concrete example. A lot of people focus on the best. They want the best companies. Best AI companies is a genuine term. Keyword plus city, AI companies, Montreal. Like I said, I'm based in Canada. Keyword plus country, AI companies in Canada. Top plus keyword, top AI consulting firms. That is also an opportunity. Firm is just a synonym for company. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity, but it means the same thing. Yeah? So remember, we're not flustered if we use synonyms. Keyword variation plus best. So what we're looking for is consulting firms, consulting companies, etc., etc. These are variations of the main keyword, and you can see what pops up. Tools, service, brand plus keywords. So for example, I have a client who is a Microsoft ERP consultant. You see how Microsoft is a modifier for ERP consultant because an ERP is a solution. But at the same time, Microsoft is a huge company that offers a lot of services. So ERP would also be a qualifier. So AI for manufacturing. Yes, it's not because you offer, for example, cybersecurity services that people care. Now, if you say cybersecurity for your industry, now they care. And there's also a use case. What would I use the service for? So, for example, AI for investing is not the same as for content generation. You need to be specific. And templates are a gold mine if you are a B2B marketer. Why? Well, here's a concrete example straight from SERPstat once again. ERP implementation checklist in Excel. ERP systems requirement checklist, migration checklist, vendor selection checklist, audit checklist, go live and upgrade checklist. Do you see where I'm going with this? People want PDFs, people want Word templates or Google Doc templates. They want checklists. Give the people what they want. So template types of keywords are gold mine. And you can recreate this for almost any B2B company. Same goes for e-commerce. The long tail does apply. And I could go on explaining how to do this, but there's another, Canadian citizen, Christina, who is actually in Toronto, who does this quite well. You should follow her on Twitter as well. She has a framework that she called the TOP framework. It helps you put your products into an SEO perspective, which is something that I do automatically, but if it's not automatic for you, here's a template. You think about your target audience, you think about occasions, you think about product attributes. This will help you. So target, occasion, product. Let me explain. I have a lady who sells little bath capes for babies because apparently getting a baby out of the bath is quite a complicated affair. And these things, well, she has 40 of them, but they're the same product. It's just different prints sometimes, but that's it. Well, some of these prints don't have search volume because nobody's looking for that. Because most people, they're looking for a gift that they can give a new mom, a gift for a new dad. They can look for little boys' clothing. They can look for a dinosaur print. You see where I'm going with this? The target audience is important. The product attributes are important. The occasions are important. I just quoted 3 of them. So I hope that you can do the same. And I see that a few people are asking, what tools do I use for keyword research? The number 1 tool that I use, my brain. Your keyword research process is not linear. It's an exploration. You should feel smart finding different things. And then you can start with these ideas, figure out what people want, and validate these things using SEO tools. Here's a concrete example of a matrix that I did for an online store. Every single star here highlights a keyword for real. Like you could organize this entire section, you could divide it this way. So my keyword research actually informed how the website should be, thought about and organized. But it also gives you an idea of how people think about something as benign as stud earrings. That's already one specific type of earring. Oh, it gets a lot more specific based on if I wanted gold, silver, if I want to know where to buy it, if I want some specific colors. You see where I'm going. So how do you find said keywords? You need to think beyond SEO tools. And I'm quoting my friend George here. He says that inspiration is everywhere, in your product reviews, in your YouTube suggestions, on Reddit, and it's true. If your team doesn't think that long-term keywords are a great way to operate, I have a bit of advice for you. American television has been making money off of the long tail for years. All of those 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010 shows that keep running over and over and over again, they don't bring huge amounts of people in front of the TV. But put together, that audience is kind of huge. That's almost 80% of their gains. So it's important to keep in mind that the long tail is not a process that's just for SEO. It works in business too, like many, many, many industries. So now that I said this, how do you use them? How do you write for the long tail? How do you convince someone that, okay, please get on it? Well, here are a few tips. First and foremost, you need to use subheadings. So you may not necessarily need to create a dedicated page to satisfy the long tail. Sometimes it's all about adding a section to an article, let's say, or maybe a bit to a product page. Sometimes that's all it takes. But you also need to focus on the right format. So number one, subheadings. Let's say I have an article about readability. I will have a subsection about Yoast SEO's readability. And this may be an H2 or an H3. But I'm signaling to Google, hey, there is this dedicated section that answers this really niche question that people have. You need to think about content types as well. Should it be an article? Should it be an FAQ? Should it be on the homepage? And the answer to that usually is in the search results. So check the SERP. You need to know what Google is positioning. For example, I have clients in e-commerce. They sell bicycles for kids. And this is a unique query because you will see some dad blogs, mom blogs, like comparison websites, but also some key brands that are recognized as selling some of the best kids' bikes. So the company actually had a shot to position specific sections of their site. This was good news. And you need to get weirdly specific. So I said kids' bikes, but the truth is most people are looking for a girl's bike, 2 years old, 3 years old. You need to get really, really, really specific. And Google understands how specific you can get. Remember, they're able to actually take you in the page with passage indexing right to where the answer lays. So do not think you can fool them. Work with them. I apologize. So how do you operate now that I have given you all this information and you're starting to feel stressed out maybe? Well, do not obsess over keyword use. So you don't need to be exact in the long tail. Sometimes you will see that some contents rank without necessarily using the phrase or without using the full phrase. What I'm advising you to do is try to use things where they make sense. So I had a long tail keyword, best AI company, Montréal. We're missing a few words here, huh? So, for example, a subheading would be, hi, we're one of the best AI consulting companies in beautiful Montreal. This is absolutely something you can do. Do not feel like you have to have the keywords right one next to the other perfectly. If they're in the same sentence, we're happy. You're good. You're writing for humans, okay? And you have a search engine that's rather smart and that can actually understand how each word relates to the next without having to go like one after the next after the next. They can jump around. And that's the point of all of these updates, getting closer to being human. Well, understanding humans. So I hope that this was useful for you. And I'm hoping that you have a few more questions, or if you are stuck with one of your websites or clients, maybe we can talk about it and maybe I can give you some insights.
Okay, thank you, Miriam. Thank you. And your presentation is great, full of tips, insights, actionable knowledge. And you answered some questions already. It's great. You covered some important things our participants expected to see here.
I have one more tip. Because something that most people don't realize is Google is able to now create moments in videos, right? So we know when we load up a video in like the search results, it's like, oh, this moment talks about this. This moment talks about that. This moment talks about this. They will take you to the video answer as well. So this also applies to your video content. The long tail is not just for written content. It is for videos as well.
Yes, thank you very much. It's the most popular content, especially short videos and specific with some life hacks and so on. Okay, thank you. So it's time for a Q&A session, and we have some questions from emails and several questions from the chat. So let's start from the questions from emails. And the first question, how to choose a user-friendly URL for long tail keywords?
Ooh, that is okay. So I have some tips for URLs, period. You want to remove any keywords that, and not any keywords, any words that are considered to be empty of semantic meaning. That's a lot of English for remove words that, are not useful to make sense of the URL. So, for example, how to make the best coffee ever. Well, what we could have is how to best coffee, period. Like, we don't need necessarily the ever, the how to make. You need to focus on whatever makes sense to keep the integrity. There's a reason for this. Back in the days, URLs used to be very long and you could not go beyond 2,000 characters in some browsers. So it became like a habit of we try to keep things short. Now, the good rule of thumb is just to remove any word that is empty of meaning, that you do not need to make sense.
Okay, great. It's clear, I guess. So, and the next question is, if I change the semantics of existing page to long tail keywords, how long after changing should I expect results?
Okay, so that is a loaded question because, of course, the answer is it depends. However, let's get real. Google can take up to like 8 weeks to figure out that you've changed something. And with all the updates, they're aiming to actually visit some websites less and less. Not saying that your website will be it, but it costs money to crawl things. So if you're making updates, what I would focus on before wondering how long will it take is, have I done everything right? What is that everything? Well, if you want that page to actually get a shot, you need to improve your internal linking to make sure that the anchors are also a bit more long tail, of course. You need to see, okay, am I aligning with the search intent behind this? So for example, if you have a Black Forest cake recipe and you're changing it to Black Forest cookie recipe, but you're not really giving that page real revamp to match people looking for cookies, you're not going to have fun. Like, Google will probably, even if they pay attention, they probably won't rank you as well because you switched, huh? So you have to keep this in mind. Another element is that long tail part of a content cluster? So like I said, if I'm talking about, I'm not just an SEO agency, I'm a Shopify SEO agency. What do I have in my content that would prove I do Shopify stuff? Is it just a service page that I changed from SEO agency to Shopify SEO agency? Or do I have some blog posts that talk about all the stuff that we as SEO experts have to optimize in Shopify? So for example, internal linking, because they have problems in there, technical problems, how to write a product description, how to do it, how to change an alt in Shopify, etc. So when we talk about the long tail, it's an opportunity to answer all of these questions that people have about one big topic. So if you're telling me you have a one standalone page about a topic and you made it long tail, you could get results on paper as easily as the next day, maybe, if your website is crawled often, or as long as 8 weeks. But will it have a real shot at positioning itself in a sea of other content? Not necessarily. So you have to keep in mind that the long tail is part of a whole, but also the long tail has been used for many, 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 many years. So you're not the first one to show up. You need to find the real ones that work. Keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you very much. And can you hear me well now?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, great. So your answer was like a checklist, and with the title, it depends, but you should make efforts, definitely.
A lot of people think that this is magic. It's not. It's a lot of sweat. and tears and figuring out what works.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's turn to the questions from the chat. And thanks to the questions, we know that your favorite pizza is margarita. Great.
What about yours?
It's a great question. I don't know, maybe 4 cheese.
So I just want to take a minute to explain this because we both seem to really enjoy cheese. And my answer was still margarita with extra cheese. And yours was like, give me cheese variety. I want 4 cheeses. So that's what we mean about the long tail. Like there's something that modifies that intent that makes it that we are both looking for the same thing, but with a different approach. And maybe we expect different results when we say more cheese. So great example. Thank you.
Thank you as well. So about other questions, do you use Google's autocomplete feature to find the long tail keywords, or Google's people also ask feature?
So I touched a little bit on this, and very often when I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, because I'm just starting with a new client. Remember, I worked in a lot of industries. Well, I start there. But be careful. There's a few modifiers that can help you. So if you are typing the keyword, your main keyword, and it's not popping up, there's nothing that really gives you that lead, that little like, oh, I got this, I know where to go. You need to plug in some other common modifiers like who, what, where, how, why, reviews, best, and your keyword. And then you will start seeing things pop up. And one of the great things that you can do if you have a paid tool like SERPstat, what I like is you can filter by, for example, location. So you just go, hey, show me everything that contains like a modifier that tells me this is local. So Canada, Montreal, etc. It saves you time. However, if you want to do this in the Google autocomplete search bar, you absolutely can. If you feel stuck, use what I just said to get out of this feeling of, oh, I'm not finding what I need.
Great. Okay, and another, not question, but asking for some tip. My SEO team lead doesn't want to work with long tail keywords. I don't know how to argue with her. And I'd say that you should definitely show her the recording of our webinar. And maybe, Miriam, you have some other tips.
I like how polite you are. I was going to say the opposite because I have a very cut opinion. So if you are working with a huge media group, for example, or a huge brand like Coca-Cola, you can afford to go big and spend a lot of money, a lot of resources, like beyond like people's time, effort to go after big terms like this. However, keep in mind, does Mercedes or BMW or Jeep want to be first on the word car? No, it doesn't sell. Okay, it doesn't. So even with like the whole best case scenario that I just gave, I'm very confused about this SEO's approach. Like I really would need to know more. My first reaction would be, is this person truly aware of what's been going on in SEO for the past 15 years or what's going on? Because it doesn't seem like a realistic goal. It's like if I told you, Elena, you know what? I'm in my mid-30s, but now is the time I'm going to become a pop star. And not any type of pop star. I want to be a Korean pop star. You're going to stare at me and go, good one. That's how I feel when I have some SEOs going, no, I don't care about the long tail. I'm like, how? How do you make this happen? So maybe you can show the webinar, or maybe you can just have an argument saying, hey, those long tail keywords in that slide, they convert 3 to 5% more on average. Like these are the money keywords. Let's go after them.
Okay, thank you for your direct answer for the question.
Very direct.
Yeah. And the next question, maybe I missed something. You can let's say a couple of words about it. Do long tail keyword phrases need to be exact, or can we change that a little? Is Google good at understanding the meaning?
Okay, so there's two answers to the first question. Here's why. Is Google able to jump from one word to the next until the end of the sentence to see how each keyword, well, each word in that sentence relate to one another and change the meaning? Yes. Is Google able to understand if you use a synonym that is close to like the long tail keyword that you have? So for example, how to put on trousers, how to put on pants. The answer is yes, but, and this is a very strong nuance, okay? If you are looking for something like how to lose weight, and then you're like, oh, I feel smart, I'm gonna just use a synonym. So how to lose body mass, let's say hypothetically. Don't do that necessarily, because you're not smarter. You're just using a synonym that has less people searching for it. But Google will just bunch up these two things together. So you are technically shooting yourself in the foot, because you're using the term that is less competitive, but you're not using the real term that would make sense. So you're basically straggling along. You're not being competitive. I don't know how to illustrate that fully, but for example, when people just focus on the wrong side of the long tail, going, oh, I feel smart, I use the synonym, there's less people looking for this, so I'm gonna rank better. No, I had an article like this where I'm talking about how to optimize your internal search if you have an e-commerce store. And my problem is that, yes, internal search is a synonym for on-site search, but most people use on-site search. So my problem was that I was focusing on a synonym. I didn't know this because I didn't do my SEO homework for that one. And it was my personal blog, so it didn't matter to me. But I got a bit angry that it wasn't ranking, so I changed a few things in my long tail approach to include much more on-site. It worked better, period. So it's a very nuanced approach. That's why I say it's not linear. You need to use your brain and go, okay, what's my best shot?
Okay, thank you. And the next question, how to track your performance with long tail keywords? How do you usually track it?
I really try not to say like it depends, so we're not going to use that. What I seek to understand in some content to know if my content is working well is how much of the long tail am I seeing in my tools or Google Search Console? Like that's also a tool that I love. I have an article on my personal dog blog about all the beaches you can take your dog to if you're in Quebec. And something that people don't know is that dogs are not welcome at restaurants, anywhere, like anywhere. So it's very few beaches. And I'm seeing that people are finding my content using beaches where dogs are permitted, beaches where dogs are authorized, dog-friendly beach. You see the nuance? I'm seeing variations of the long tail here. It's a different way, 40 different ways to ask the same thing. So in that sense, my article was successful because I know that I'm ranking like on multiple long tail opportunities here because I'm answering the intent of where can I take my dog to a beach that is in this specific location? So the question by itself is already rather long tail. Not everyone talks about this. But on top of this, I'm capturing all the different ways people could ask about this. So the first like beginner advice I could give is check out what you are ranking for, what Google is showing you for in Google Search Console. This will be a very good indicator of, am I really aligning with this search intent? AKA, am I satisfying all the different ways people could look for this?
Okay. And I see one more question here. Knowing that the meta keyword is not a page ranking factor any longer, is it still useful to use on your pages?
Yes, but not necessarily for the reasons you think. Never for SEO, okay? At least for Google. Some other search engines may rely on it, but very often it's used to help boost your internal search. So sometimes you will be required to put in extra keywords because it's used by your own internal search engine on top of something else to help it along. So this is the one case where I would recommend using it. But if you're thinking of using it for SEO, no, please don't. Don't waste your time. Prioritize something better. This is not going to help.
Okay. And there is one more question. How to boost those long tail keyword pages if they are in a cluster and there is a semantic, but still they don't rank well for the past 7-8 months?
Okay, so this one, like, I feel you, Boris. I'm just so upset when that happens to me. So you need to take a pen and paper, or if you're like a computer type of person, you draw that cluster. You're like, okay, so here would be my hub, here are all the different things, and you need to figure out how to optimize the internal linking, like which topics are interrelated. Am I really focusing on the intent? Do I understand that this long tail, for example, is like top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel? So you need to also review this. Like, hey, if I'm talking to someone who's a beginner in SEO, what is SEO article? Am I full of like jargon? Is it too hard to understand? This could be a problem. Okay, what is the motivation of somebody looking for the best SEO tools? Are they looking for the long tail? Am I explaining to them that, hey, you can use it for this, these are the features that I like, etc.? So what I would do if I were you is review where they fit into the funnel. Do you align with that search intent? Improve the internal linking by using long tail anchors as well. Make sure that you check the SERP. Remember, like I had the 4 steps. Check the results. Maybe your pages, they're not the right type. Maybe they're service pages. Maybe they're a blog post when videos are ranking better, in which case just embed a video, do it properly though, and this could help. Another element I would focus on is go check Google Search Console. Maybe you have some content tuning to do. What I mean by that is, remember my readability article example? It's a real life example. I was like, why am I not ranking well on this? Oh, it's because Google thinks that I'm the best person to answer the Yoast readability question, and I did 1 sentence on it. Let me create a section. Things are going better. So I hope this helps you like kickstart, that whole like, I'm angry, I did my homework, why isn't it working well? Okay, let me fix it.
Okay, great. And that's all I have for now. So friends, if you have any other questions, join our Substack Twitter channel. Substack chats are conducted there. It's a great opportunity to communicate with SEO experts and get answers to your questions on a featured topic. You can also contribute your expertise there. We conduct the Substack chat regularly on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 p.m. Pacific Time on our Twitter. Join our Google Calendar to make sure you won't miss our future Twitter chats and webinars. I'll put the link here to the chat. One moment.
We'll be talking about the long tail.
Yeah. Yes, and this Thursday we have a chat with Miriam on the same topic. You are welcome to join us there as well. So, Miriam, I appreciate you taking the time to share your Tuesday with us. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. It was really engaging and fun. Guys, thank you for watching, for your questions, and being here with us. It's been a productive day, in my opinion. And have a great day, Miriam. Have a great day.
Thank you, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye. See you.